They are, like you said, usually described as dark humanoid figures, three-dimensional shadows, almost like a shadow, but with depth. Like you could physically touch it, but it's just dark. Yeah, is something that you kind of glimpse at the side, something that's quick, or something that's kind of looming off in the distance, which is a debatable topic. There is whether they're actually seeing something or if it's just their brains, while they're falling asleep. But when people see these shadow figures, there is this inherent fear and a nervousness. Therefore, people do usually associate them with negativity. There are theories that they are these extra dimensional beings that can slip through different dimensions, but that they usually aren't human, that they've never been any kind of human. They're not a ghost, they're not a spirit. Is that they are a manifestation of an extreme negativity. Right behind my shadow is actually a really big shadow of, I swear, a man with a fedora and a trench coat. And it's funny because one of the most famous shadow figures that you hear of is called the Hat Man.
Yeah, Papa Legba is something they believe in. I believe it's voodoo culture, but he's seen wearing a hat and he's seen as a shadow.
Standing at crossroads. He's like a crossroads kind of being, almost. Dude. I don't want to say deity, but yeah, dude. The communication between mortals and the Loa, he opens the door between the spirit world and the mortal world.
This is about the exorcism of Annalise Michel. The exorcism of Emily Rose is based off of the real-life exorcism of Anna Michel. But when she turned 16, she started to experience a really bad bout of seizures. But here's the thing, there's more to that. We'll get more into the epilepsy part of her diagnosis later. There's strong evidence to suggest that she did not have epilepsy. She starts to become violent at the sight of religious idols and relics. She took an apple and held it in front of her mom with one hand and crushed it into 1,000,000 pieces. The whites of her eyes would turn black and her whole eyeball would turn black. She picked her younger sister up and threw her younger sister across the room like a rag doll. It's just the depression getting to her and the epilepsy, so let's give her even more medication. She went from speaking in a pretty high register down to the register of probably like a bass or a baritone man's. Quote, Annalise told me, and Frau Hein confirmed this, that she was unable to enter the shrine. She approached it with the greatest hesitation, then said that the soil burned like fire, and she simply could not stand it. And then she walked around the shrine in a wide arc, and tried to approach the altar from the back. She looked at the people who were kneeling in the area surrounding the garden, and it seemed to her that while they were praying, she was gnashing her teeth. As she got far to the edge of the little garden, she had to turn back. Coming from the front again, she had to avert her glance at the picture of Jesus Christ in the chapel, and she made several times back and forth to the garden, but could not get past that picture of Jesus Christ. She also noted that she could no longer look at medals or pictures of saints. They sparkled so brightly and immensely that it burned her eyes, and she could not stand it. 67 exorcisms were performed on this little girl until she died. He believes her soul was freed by the performance of the exorcisms and that the demons let her go to heaven. When she dies, she only weighs about 68 pounds because she stopped eating and drinking and refused all medical attention and advice. Rip at her skin if a doctor come into the room to treat her. There were no traces of epilepsy in her brain, not even down to the microscopic unit. Like, her parents And Father also claimed to see blisters show up on her feet and ankles when she touched the ground of the church. She drank her pee off the floor, which you see in The Exorcist. She like pees on the floor in The Exorcist. But Annalise Michel took it a step higher. She licked her pee off the floor. She ate spiders. She did. Don't be like Annalise Michel. It's about the St. Augustine Lighthouse located in Anastasia Island, St. Augustine, Florida. There are 2 girls that supposedly haunt the lighthouse. And they were told not to play on the pier, that it was not secure, it was not safe for them to play on, but they didn't listen. The cable ends up snapping while they're playing on it. The pier ends up flipping over, trapping 2 of the children underneath the pier while the 3rd goes and gets help. The girls had perished and drowned in the water there. They're seen out by the swings just outside of the museum, and they're heard just playing and giggling all throughout the lighthouse.
Yeah, he was painting the lighthouse tower, and the scaffolding gave out, and he fell over 60 feet.
They can smell the tobacco from the lighthouse keeper. That's true.
The watch is gonna blast off to the right.
And she caught a video of the swings swinging in unison, and no wind in the area. Here, laughing, like giggling from the top of the lighthouse. So who was laughing at them? Those 2 little girls. That's what I think.